All right, so ready to take a deep dive into Nvidia. They're like, I don't know, the heart of this whole AI explosion we're seeing. We're going to break down some predictions about, their earnings report, which is coming out on February 26th. We're basing this on an article called My Top 3 Nvidia Predictions for Feb in 26. So whether you own some Nvidia stock or just want to know more about where AI is going, I think you'll find this deep dive interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It is pretty amazing how NVIDIA has become, well, essential to everything AI. I mean, they have something like 80% of the market for AI chips, right? Which is, I don't know, kind of wild.
Yeah.
But it's more than just chips,
Yeah, 80%, that's a huge number. Right. But you're right. They're not just sitting around counting their chips or whatever. What I thought was really cool in this article was the fact that they're building this whole ecosystem around their chips.
Exactly. It's like they're setting the stage for the whole future of AI. So instead of just selling the hardware, they're also making the software, the tools, and setting up these partnerships that make it easier for companies to actually use AI.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Apple, right? Like it's not just the iPhone. They're all about the App Store and the whole ecosystem that makes people actually want to use their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. But why should regular people care about this? What's the impact for us?
Well, think about it this way. NVIDIA is kind of like a sign of how the whole AI industry is doing. If NVIDIA is killing it, it means AI is really taking off. And that's going to change everything, from healthcare to how the financial markets work.
Okay, so their success is like a measure of how fast AI is growing.
Yeah.
Got it. But this article isn't just about, how they've done well before. It's about what's going to happen next, especially with their next earnings report. So the author makes these 3 predictions, and the first one is that NVIDIA is going to beat expectations yet again, which, to be honest, they kind of do all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, how do they keep doing that? I mean, part of it is that they're, laser focused on AI, which is obviously booming, but they're also just super good at, turning all that demand into profits. They're efficient.
Okay, so they're good at what they do, but isn't there a potential problem here? The article talks about this new Blackwell architecture that they're rolling out, and it sounds really complicated. And usually complicated means more expensive, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Blackwell is pretty complex. There are multiple types of chips, all these different networking options, and they customize a lot for their clients, all of which could, I don't know, put a little pressure on their profit margins, at least for a while.
But the author of this article still seems to think that they're going to beat those earnings forecasts. Isn't that a little, I don't know, optimistic, maybe?
Maybe not. So while, yeah, Blackwell's rollout might cause a few hiccups, the demand for NVIDIA stuff is just so high, and they're just so good at, running things smoothly, that an earnings beat is, well, it's definitely possible. The author actually predicts that they'll beat the analyst estimate of 84 cents earnings per share, and they'll even go past their own revenue projection, which was $37.5 billion. That's pretty bold.
Yeah. Wow, okay, those are some big numbers. All right, prediction number 2 is about dealing with what the article calls the DeepSeek threat. Can you catch us up on what happened with this Chinese startup and why some NVIDIA investors were kind of freaking out?
Sure. So basically, DeepSeek claimed they had trained this powerful AI model using way fewer GPUs than everyone thought was possible, right?
Okay.
And that got investors worried because if DeepSeek's method caught on, it could mean lower demand for, NVIDIA's super powerful chips,
So was this a real threat to NVIDIA, or was it more just hype?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. So some experts in the semiconductor industry, they started digging into what DeepSeek was saying, and their analysis kind of suggested that DeepSeek had probably downplayed their actual GPU costs. They probably spent way more than they were letting on.
Oh, so maybe not the NVIDIA killer they seemed to be at first. So how did NVIDIA react to all of this?
Well, they used it as a chance to explain the difference between training an AI model and using it for inference. Training is I guess you could say it's teaching the AI, and inference is when it actually does something useful.
Okay, so maybe DeepSeek found a cheaper way to train an AI, but NVIDIA is saying their chips are still essential for actually putting that AI to work in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. They pointed out that, even if DeepSeek's training method was, totally legit, actually using AI in the real world, what they call inference, would still need a ton of computing power, which is where their GPUs really shine, right?
So the author of this article thinks Nvidia is going to use their earnings report to, really drive that point home and reassure investors that DeepSeek isn't a major threat.
Right. They're probably going to really emphasize how inference is a huge growth area for them and how their chips are, they're the key to making AI actually do useful things.
Okay. I can see why the author's so optimistic about Nvidia. All right, so the last prediction is all about a potential, surge in their stock price. The article says that Nvidia's stock took a bit of a dip after the DeepSeek news, and there were these worries about U.S. policies on, exporting chips to China. But the author still thinks things are looking up for Nvidia. What do you think?
I think it makes sense to, take a closer look at, Nvidia's position in the market. They are the global leader when it comes to AI chips. They're, in a really strong position in the market, and they're making a lot of money. And they're constantly, innovating and coming up with new stuff. Those are some pretty solid fundamentals, right?
And the author points out that Nvidia's current valuation, which is 27 times forward earnings, is, pretty attractive for investors.
Yeah, definitely. And if you combine that good valuation with the potential for, good news in their earnings report, then yeah, the author's prediction of a stock surge makes a lot of sense. Investors might see this as a chance to get back in on Nvidia, and that would drive the price up.
So, yeah, a lot is riding on this February 26th earnings report. Sounds like it could be a big moment for Nvidia.
It definitely has the potential to be. And beyond these specific predictions, what I find really interesting is this bigger question, right? What will the future of AI hardware look like? I mean,
That's a great question. We've been, focusing on how dominant Nvidia is, but could companies like DeepSeek, with their focus on these specialized chips, could they eventually, challenge Nvidia? Or will Nvidia's more, comprehensive approach and their focus on inference, will that just solidify their lead?
Those are the million-dollar questions, right? And the exciting thing is we're all watching this happen in real time. The AI landscape is constantly changing, and how AI evolves is going to reshape everything.
Okay, so we've seen that Nvidia is like a major player in the AI world. But what I find really interesting is that their journey, I guess, it kind of shows how technology is changing.
Yeah.
It feels like we're moving away from this general purpose computing and going towards more specialized hardware. Like what DeepSeek is supposedly doing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. DeepSeek, even if their first claims weren't exactly accurate, they still show this trend of building chips for very specific AI jobs, right? We're already seeing this with things like AI accelerators, which are, they're designed to speed up machine learning.
So is it possible that these specialized chips, could actually end up being better than NVIDIA's more general purpose GPUs, like at least for certain things like training AI models?
It's possible, but you got to remember that Nvidia isn't just sitting around. They're putting a lot of money and effort into research and development to stay ahead of game. Their new Blackwell architecture, it's a good example of how they're always pushing the limits of what AI hardware can do.
So it's like a competition, right? With everyone trying to build the fastest, most efficient AI chips. But what about inference? That process of actually using the trained AI, it seems like NVIDIA is pretty sure that their GPUs are going to stay essential for that.
And they have good reason to be confident, I think. Inference usually means processing a lot of information really fast, with almost no delay. So you need chips that can handle tons of data super quickly. And that's where NVIDIA's high-performance GPUs, that's where they really excel.
But couldn't someone, theoretically build specialized chips for inference too?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely possible. But NVIDIA has this huge advantage. They've been building a whole ecosystem around their GPUs for years. Think about it. They've got software libraries, development tools, and it's a huge network of partners. All of that makes it makes a lot easier for developers to build and use AI applications that use NVIDIA hardware.
So it's not just about the chips, right? It's about having this whole system in place that makes those chips work well for people who are building AI applications.
Exactly. NVIDIA has created this whole platform that, it makes the whole process of developing and using AI a lot simpler. And that's a big draw for companies and researchers who want to, use AI without having to build everything themselves, from scratch.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I want to talk about something that's been all over the news. China, the article mentioned some uncertainty about U.S. policies on exporting chips to China. So how could that affect Nvidia?
Well, Nvidia makes a decent amount of money from China, so any limits on exports could hurt their sales. But Nvidia is a global company, right? They've got customers all over the world, so they're not totally dependent on any one market.
Right, but even if they can handle a dip in sales, wouldn't those restrictions also stifle innovation? I mean, if Chinese researchers and companies can't get NVIDIA's best chips, wouldn't that slow down AI development in China?
That's a good point. Yeah, restricting access to, advanced technology, it could create sort of a technological gap, and it could slow down AI progress in some places. But you also have to remember that China is putting a lot of money into their own chip industry, their domestic chip industry. They're trying to develop their own high-performance chips that could, compete with NVIDIA.
So these export restrictions could actually encourage China to become more self-sufficient when it comes to AI hardware.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, limitations can lead to some amazing innovation. These restrictions, they could give China even more reason to, to really focus on their own chip development and try to catch up to companies like NVIDIA.
So this all brings up a really interesting question. What does this mean for, who's going to lead in AI globally? Will the U.S. Stay on top? Or are we moving towards a world where China and other countries play a bigger role?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question. It's a complicated situation. You've got technology, government policies, the global economy. It's all connected. But what's clear is that AI is changing everything, and this race to develop and use AI, it's only going to get more intense.
Wow, it's pretty amazing to think about all the implications. So we've talked about NVIDIA's success, the future of AI hardware, and the geopolitical landscape. Before we wrap up this part, what's really stood out to you from all of this? What's the one thing that's sticking in your mind?
What really strikes me is how NVIDIA's story shows a bigger trend in the tech world. This idea that hardware and software are becoming more and more connected. It's not enough to just build a powerful chip anymore. You have to create this whole ecosystem around it that makes it, easy and efficient for other people to use. And I think that's really what's made NVIDIA so successful in this AI revolution.
That's such a good point. It reminds me that innovation isn't just about the technology itself. It's about creating this whole environment where that technology can, really thrive and actually make a difference. Okay, on to part 3. Okay, so we've talked about, how well NVIDIA is doing and how they're kind of riding this wave of, the AI boom. But now I kind of want to zoom out a little, and think about the bigger picture. What does this AI revolution, what does it really mean for the world and for all of us?
Well, what's amazing to me is, how AI is becoming, less of this niche thing and more like this driving force behind major changes in so many different industries, right? We're talking about healthcare, finance, manufacturing, transportation, you name it, and AI is probably involved somehow.
Yeah, it really does feel like AI is everywhere these days.
Sure.
Even if we don't always realize it. And from what I'm hearing, this is just the beginning.
Right. And as AI gets more sophisticated and easier to use, its impact is only gonna it's gonna get bigger. We're at the start of a huge shift in how our society works, and it's all being driven by by this technology.
Okay, so AI is changing the world, but what does that actually mean for for the average person? How will it actually affect our our daily lives?
Mm-hmm. Well, just imagine a world where AI is personalizing your education, tailoring your healthcare to your specific needs, automating all those those annoying tasks that nobody likes to do, and even helping you make difficult decisions. And these aren't just futuristic fantasies. These are possibilities that are quickly becoming, reality.
I can see the potential benefits, but it's also a little scary too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, AI could solve some of humanity's biggest problems. But there's also like a chance that it could, lead to job losses or bias in algorithms or even, AI being used for bad things.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, AI is it's a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. That's why it's so important to, to talk about the ethics of AI, to come up with like rules for responsible use, and to make sure that that the benefits are shared, with everyone in society.
So this AI revolution, it's not just about technology, right? It's making us ask these big questions about, what does it mean to be human in a world where machines are, getting smarter all the time.
Absolutely. And it's not just, tech experts or politicians who should be having this conversation. It's something that that we all need to be a part of, shaping the future of AI and making sure that it's used to create a better world for everyone.
All right. So we've covered a lot, NVIDIA's success, the future of AI hardware, the geopolitical landscape, and now this broader societal impact. That's a lot to think about. Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to think about.
I'm ready.
We've seen how AI's it's ready to reshape the world in some really big ways. So the question is, what role do we as individuals, what role do we want to play in shaping that future? Are we okay with just being, passive observers, or do we want to actually participate in the conversation, advocate for responsible AI development, and demand that this technology be used to benefit everyone?
That's a powerful question, and it's one that that we each need to to really think about. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something that that we're creating right now through the choices that we make.
So as we navigate this uncharted territory, let's remember that we have the responsibility and also the opportunity to guide this this AI revolution in a way that reflects our values and what we want the world to be. I think that's a pretty good takeaway from this deep dive.
Yeah, well said. And remember, this conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for AI to be a force for good in the world.
And that's it for this episode of the Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Nvidia and the AI revolution. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into another fascinating topic.
Yeah.